Your hardships are the greatest tool that you have. Your shortcomings, the things that you failed through, the times that you felt real suffering are the greatest tools that you have if you're only willing to use them. This is episode 1080, Joe Rogan Experience with David Goggins. I'm Coach Colin, coolest high performance coach in the world. And if you want the absolute best insights to the podcasts and videos you love, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it.
There's something about talking to a guy like you that a lot of people hope that you're going to say some magic thing that's going to click in their brain.
Everybody
and
wants
it's
it.
change who they are. Like, what is it? What is the thing? That's why people go to these self-help conferences and they take these classes and they hope that someone's going to say something that changes the way their mind works.
It's hilarious to me.
It is. It's kind of hilarious to me too. But what is also hilarious is that what you're saying is that you have to do those things. You have to suffer. You have to live in it. You have to be comfortable in it. And then maybe some of that shit will help you a little bit along the way.
Period. And when I was a SEAL recruiter, I got invited to MIT. Smart ass motherfuckers there, man. I'm not that. I'm just a good animal. I'm a knuckle dragger. And there was this guy there, I forget his name, but he was like the top head guy. Old white guy, you know, all geniused out. And we were on this panel, and they were asking us all these questions about the mind, mental toughness and shit, and he was answering them. And I wasn't answering many questions. And I'll never forget, he was just answering them off of theory. He never put his fucking ass in shit. You read a bunch of fucking books, and you think that you know how the fucking mind works and shit. I'd have gone through hell since a kid, and then all the way up until now.
Right.
So I know, so that theory is bullshit. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there you can read from people, but I had lived hell. And when you put yourself in hell, that's the only time you can figure out how the fuck to get through that motherfucker. You can't read somebody else's book about some theory on how to do shit. Some guy who sat up in their nice warm office and wrote some book with a nice cup of coffee in the fucking hand. No, I want to see that guy who immersed himself in fucking hell, and he thought about quitting and leaving, and his wife and his kids, and why am I here? Is it worth it? All this crazy shit, and still said, and found out a way to get through it. So basically, that's the bottom line of it all. We all want to read about how we can quickly get somewhere. That's why the 6-minute abs and all sort of shit is so powerful. You may get some results from it, but they're not permanent. The permanent result comes from you fucking, I say it all the time, you have to suffer. You have to make that a tattoo on your fucking brain, so when that hard time comes again, you don't forget it. You may forget it for a second, but you can go back in the cookie jar, I call it. It's something that we've all endured. I call it the cookie jar, and we often forget how hard we are, but you gotta reflect back. Take a couple seconds to reflect. I've been through this, I've been through that. And then remind yourself, I'm a bad motherfucker. And then you can get through that shit. But if you don't believe it, you haven't endured shit, you're just blowing smoke, man. And you're not gonna be able to get through anything.
What was this guy saying? Like, what was his theories that he was throwing out there?
His theories was about, I forget exactly what it was, but it was something about what the mind does under stress. And how we can't, he said how we can't do something. And I did it. I did what he said we couldn't do.
Like, what was he saying he couldn't do?
It was something about if you're born a certain way, it's something about if you're born a certain way, you can't become this way. And it was totally saying that with who I am now, like I had to be born with some, not genetic power or some gift from God, but I had to have some kind of special gift. Had to have some kind of special gift. And I forget what set me off, but it was like we had to be, to be somewhere, you had to be born with it. What was the concept? And I know what I was born with, and I know the battle that I had in my mind. So when he said it, I just sat there looking at my face, and somebody in the crowd asked me a question. And I totally contradicted everything he said. And I was like, nah, man, I mean, I fucking know for a fact that you can be this fucked up dude, like really fucked up dude, and with the right mindset, and it sounds so easy with the right mindset.
Doesn't sound easy.
It's
I know what you're saying. It sounds like a simplistic answer.
Right. You can. But you have to go into those dark chambers that we often shut off, and you got to open them up. You got to open up and fight that fucking demon, get in there, talk to that motherfucker, say, what's up? And we all like to take this 4-lane highway, the easy highway. It has fucking signs, it has restaurants. We all love that 4-lane highway. We always step over the shovel. And all I did was I picked up that fucking shovel, and that shovel, I made my own path. And you may have big boulders and shit. They may be getting 200 miles up the road faster than you. But going through this path of life, this journey over here that you make yourself, that's incredibly difficult. What comes out the other end of that motherfucker is some glorious shit that you can't even explain to people. And we're afraid. Bottom line is most of us, even the people who have all these theories and shit, it's easier to accept the fact that I'm just not good enough. I wasn't made to do that. And yeah, some of us can't be LeBron fucking James. But I'll tell you right now, man, we can do a lot of shit when it comes to this pure arm guts and willpower and getting through shit. We have a lot more than what we think we have.
Yeah, the problem with a guy like that with his theories is his theories are based on results. And those results are based on human beings. And most human beings, there's certain people that are born with certain gifts, like a guy like LeBron James, obvious physical talent. You know, John Jones in MMA, obvious like physical talent. But when you look at someone who's super successful, you always assume that it has to be because of some sort of physical gifts, because people look at themselves, and I'm sure this doctor, this old dude, probably had like a little gut and probably
That's exactly how he looked.
Little tiny arms and weak shoulders, and probably thought, well, there's certain people that are just mesomorphic, and probably broke it down to all these scientific terms. And, you know, they just have a fast twitch muscle fibers, and they'll say all this crazy shit that is true at the very highest levels of the winners.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you can't become that.
No.
Exactly. And away from what Joe was saying and towards what David was talking about, how he's talking about how you have to suffer and you have to pull from the cookie jar. And if you don't know what the cookie jar is what he does when he's going through something very, very hard. He looks back on what he's already gone through, and he uses that as an anchor point. If I had to simplify it, because he goes about it like a very roundabout way. He says a lot, but he looks at it. He looks at these things that he's gone through in life as anchor points, just to say, if I went through this, if I went through that thing, I can go through this thing. If I made it out of that thing, I can make it out of this thing. And he always just reaches in the cookie jar, as he says. And the reason that I said your hardships are the greatest tool that you have is because you've already suffered. You know, you've already gone through a lot of hard things. You have your own cookie jar, you know, and if you could just start accessing those anchor points, start looking at things like, and it's hard sometimes because we don't really detail all the stuff that we've gone through. Because again, our life is just our life, and we just kind of do what we got to do, and we don't think of it as anything, you know? Like, I didn't really think of losing 200 pounds as anything big because I had to. I just did it. I didn't think about that as a big thing. But when I say it to someone, they go, whoa. Like, so it's like, maybe writing it down will help. Like, maybe you need to write down just a list. Maybe you don't have to write a whole documentary or a whole essay, but maybe you just write a list. Like, okay, I went through this thing. Okay, this thing happened to me. This thing happened to me. Build up a list of like 10, 15 things. And like, that will be your list. That will be your cookie jar list, you know? And start looking at those things every single time you have doubt in yourself that whether or not you can make it through something. Go look at that list and you'll see 15 anchor points. And when I say anchor points, they're proof of concept that you're a badass, proof of concept that you can handle shit. Look at that list and just be like, okay, I went through this thing. Did I think I was going to make it out of this thing when I was going through it? No, I didn't think I'd make it out. I thought all hope was lost, but I made it out. I went through this thing. Did I think I was going to make it out? No, all hope was lost. But but I ended up making it out. And once you start doing that, you're going to start moving with the mindset and the confidence that no matter what it is I'm going through, even when I feel like hope is lost, I will make it out. I've done it countless times. And you'll literally have a list to go, I've done it this many times. And I already know that there's a lot of you out there. When I say 10 to 15 things, you can probably think of 40 to 80 things that you've been through that sucked and were terrible and were life-changing and were traumatic. You've probably been through a lot of those things. And you have that now. It's like you feel like sometimes people take that as a culmination of like a shitty life. But in reality, it's really just a list proving that you're solid. That even in your most fragile times, even when you feel like you're breaking down, you are solid. And you have ability. And you have resilience. And you have to start, instead of playing on that trauma and all the things you've been through, instead of looking at it as like, woe is me in your victim list, look at that as your fuel list. Look at that as your cookie jar. Look at that as your anchor points. That you do incredible things. You get through the worst things. And that way, when something else comes up, and believe me, you build up this list, you'll start looking at other things that you're going through or that you're about to go through or that like some hits you, and you'll go, this isn't even worse than item 20 that I have here. Item 20 was way worse than this. And now all of a sudden you're going to have this new confidence to handle things. Right? But again, it's like we don't think of the shitty things we go through as times of growth or times of strengthening. We look at it as times that we got beaten down. And then we kind of hang our head in that time and in that memory. And you know, you shouldn't do that. You should look at it like fuel. You should look at like everything as like a couple liters in the gas tank. You should look at that as power. That list that you build up, that's power. You have power. You have ability. You can do things. You can go through things that most people can't go through. You've been through hard shit. You've experienced hard losses. You know? Like I have a friend, like in regards to finance, he's been in a position where he had like 10 million bucks and he lost it all. So now when he's in front of a situation and they're like, I don't know, we could lose 50 grand. He's just like, okay. And now all of a sudden it like makes him move so fearlessly within the business world. Cause he's just like, if it's not 10 million, he's like, I don't care. Who cares? I've lost money. And because of that attitude, he actually lost that money and then built it up again. I think it was like almost twice as much. And then I think he went through a loss again. And guess what happened when he lost money again? Didn't even faze him. He was just like, well, he's like, I've been through this. He's like, and it gets dark, but he's like, I already know that there's light at the end of that tunnel and I'll be fine. Whereas other people who haven't gone through that, you say that to me, you tell me I'm going to lose $10 million. I'm going to be like, I'm sorry, what? I'm going to question everything because I haven't been through that. I haven't been through that type of experience. Think about the experiences that you've been through, how many you've been through, how hard they were. Think about the times where you really thought everything was lost. All hope was lost. Maybe times you even thought you were going to die. And now look around and like realize like it wasn't all lost. I didn't die. I made it out. You have to start using that as your fuel. And I say it and people always ignore it. I say it to all the people I work with. I say it to my friends all the time. Write stuff down. And they're just like, yeah. I'm like, write it down, man. Write down everything you've been through. And then write down everything you want. And then compare the two lists and be like, can I achieve this? Like based on all the anguish and suffering that I've made it through, maybe because I've been through all this, I actually can achieve all this if I'm just willing to suffer. And it's like, well, I already have this list of suffering. Like, I've already suffered in life, so I know what it's like, and I make it through. So maybe if I just pursue this list and I suffer, I'll make it through. And then I'll have all the things I want. And I know I'm saying it in a very simple way, but it is simple. It's simple to write these 2 lists down. It's going to be hard to execute. But in that first list, that cookie jar list I'm talking about, you've already been through hard shit. So you're going to be fine. I'm always telling people to pursue what's on their hearts and what they want to do with their lives and the type of person that they want to be, because it's like, what else are we going to do in this life? You're just going to not pursue the person you want to be. You're just going to not move forward and pursue that business venture. You're just going to not pursue your heart's passion. You're just going to not do that. You have no idea if you get to do this again after you die. We have no idea. This might be the only time. Yeah. David Goggins, man. Look into the cookie jar. This is episode 1080 with the Joe Rogan Experience, but look into his book, Can't Hurt Me. There's like, it goes in chapters, and he talks about the cookie jar in a deeper extent. He gives more of his own experience of how he came up with that concept. Start making your list. I'm telling you, make a list of what you've been through, make a list of what you want, and realize that you can actually do it. You've already suffered. Go get your rewards. You deserve rewards for how much you've suffered. You know what I mean? All right, guys, I'm out.